This episode of Capes and Lunatics is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. Get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
This is Luca Perich, and you're listening to the Capes and Lunatics podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Capes and Lunatics and Nuff Said podcasts are proud to present the 300th episode of Superconnectivity, featuring an interview with Ewing, the legendary writer. So, without further ado, Charlie Esser, take it away.
Okay. And now, fans, we have our very special guest, Mr. Al Ewing, current writer of Empyre and the Immortal Hulk, and just comics writer extraordinaire. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thanks for having me on.
First question, why don't you sleep? Because it seems like you're always writing 20 different books at the same time.
I mean, I try and keep control of the schedule. But I've got a fair amount on right now. It's some of it. Empyre was in progress for quite a while. I got a good head start on that one. So and I just finished writing the lettering draft for the epilogue. So that's now pretty much, aside from some final checking, that's pretty much over. So it's there's a little spot on the schedule now that can be replaced with something else.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So right now you are doing Empyre. You are the mastermind of Empyre. I'm guessing it's fair to say, which is the big Marvel Summer event. At least I don't know if it was intended to be that, but that's where it is now.
And a minute.
Yes, and one thing I'm always curious about is how that gig comes about. How, when you're, do you come to Marvel and say, hey, I've got this great idea, and then they say that sounds great, and then they build it into an event? Do they say, we want to do another big event? Anyone have any ideas? And you say, well, I'm thinking about this thing with the Kree and the Skrull. So what's the process? How do you get that off the ground, and how do you get to be put in charge of it?
I've seen it happen both those ways, but like in this case, I basically got an email saying that they were interested in doing an Avengers Fantastic Four crossover, and did I have room on my plate to do the Avengers side of it? And because Dan was obviously very interested in doing the Fantastic Four side of it, and that was kind of off the back of the Avengers work I've done in the past, I guess. Yeah. And then that's sort of the ideas we came up with. We had like a little writers' room. I was in New York. This is terrible nostalgia because it was back in the days when I could get on a plane. But like I was in New York for a big kind of signing thing, and that was an opportunity for me to, because Dan lives in New York, or lives around that area. So it was an opportunity for the two of us to get together in a room with Tom and Alana and basically just knock ideas around for and I think CB came in for some of it, but it was just it was an opportunity to sort of knock ideas around, and Dan had already had ideas of hey, let's bring the Katati back, and the kind of the Kree Skrull side of it had already been sort of knocked about and considered over emails. And I think partly that came from, it's something I've been sort of wanting to do, but was on the back burner since I want to say the new Avengers stuff with Hulk thing, but I think editorial had some ideas in that direction as well, so it was which I was all in favor of. And then and basically we came up with all these ideas, and I think what we came up with, people on the editorial side started thinking, oh, we could have some more tie-ins to this. We could have and we could have some more tie-ins to this. We could turn it into an actual big old thing.
Yes.
And then the hiatus happens, the horrible situation we're all in right now. And yeah, I guess, we have this big sort of blockbuster movie, at least compared to like my Hulk work and even the Guardians work. It's like, yeah, this is the one with all of the spaceships and, all of the superheroes getting together. And yeah, I think the decision was made that once we got back out of the hiatus, it'd become a weekly thing.
Yeah.
Just to kind of,
I mean, and it's an amazing tale that's being spun here, and I really was shocked in a way, just how fully Tony gets pulled into the Cody's web of lies, as it were, or I don't know quite how you pronounce the tree people.
I've been saying Katati, but like,
Katati. Okay.
It's it's a word that was like invented to go on the page. I don't think there's like a real pronunciation of it.
Yeah, they're trees. They don't really talk, normally. Well. So that's just for us. Yeah, but I just being pulled into it and then having that dramatic reveal, which I thought was the most interesting aspect of this, because in all of the hype leading up to this, it was really presented that this was going to be the Kree and the Skrull coming to conquer the Earth.
Yeah, I think the idea was that we'd sort of surprise people a little bit. Mm-hmm. I know when Incoming dropped, which was the end of the year thing where we basically said that the Kree and the Skrulls were coming together, and Hulk was in charge, and he's sort of, and we're going to invade here, and he points his sword, and if you look back at that, he's pointing at the moon.
Oh,
yes.
Nice. But we basically did that because we needed a nice big juicy ending for that thing, and also we wanted people to be like a little bit worried that he might be the bad guy for like a couple of months, which turned into 6 months, but well,
it was
now people know.
Yeah, it was an amazing misdirect, and it was so well executed, because when you sort of started to feel that something wasn't right with the Katari, you could feel that there was something off, but you couldn't quite put your finger on it, because they seem very positive, very helpful. They give She-Hulk a hammer that makes her no longer have to deal with the broken speech anymore, which I thought very convenient to just solve that problem.
There's She-Hulk. There's like there's one of those characters who's like Avengers and FF, and very kind of because all of the FF have been Avengers.
Yeah.
A lot of Avengers have been FF, so I was sort of thinking like trying to give the Avengers who've been on the FF some sort of like meaty things, meaty little things to do at certain kind of points in the crossover. So we'll see She-Hulk making use of that.
Yes.
Is that kind of difficult sometimes, like when you're doing a big event like this and you have to deal with characters who like you're not writing like their monthly books, so it's like you have to take everything into account, what Jason Aaron's doing and everyone else.
We sort of did take what Jason was doing into account. We've sort of got reasons for doing it this way. Partly it's the characterization she had when she was in the FF. Partly it's other stuff, but like it's basically, I think the hard part is sort of you're kind of implicitly picking a time frame that this is all happening in. Like, take Tony,
Yeah.
If you pick up the Iron Man books, he's knee deep in a whole lot of stuff right now.
Oh yeah.
And we have to kind of pick a timeline that's sort of before or after that, and kind of trust readers to sort of put the timeline together in their heads a little bit. I kind of think like gone are the days when we can, especially right after a pandemic.
Yeah.
Not that we are after it, but
Yeah.
right after the hiatus. But we kind of gone are the days when we can have like everything matching up like exactly. In terms of, Thor opens the casket of Ancient Winters and like everywhere. Every comic gets a couple of panels of snow out of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like everybody wants to do the Casket of Ancient Winters again. It's like there's no lack of will to do the Casket of Ancient Winters. But it's tricky, it's tough. It's there are different schedules and different sort of time frames for bringing stuff out, and then having the distribution mechanism essentially sort of reboot. Obviously throws an extra thing into that. So, but you always try and do right by the characters.
Right.
In at least according to your own lights. That's always the goal.
Now, I really see an interesting parallel when I'm reading Immortal Hulk, when I'm reading Guardians of the Galaxy, or when I'm reading, and arguably it's in Empyre too, the idea of identity. And I think you're dealing a lot with identity in Immortal Hulk, and that's definitely bleeding through in as a theme in your current Guardians of the Galaxy run. Most interesting, one of the identities I'm most fascinated by that you've created in Immortal Hulk, although there are a lot of interesting ones, is the idea of Joe Fixit having Banner's body.
Yeah, that is kind of a gift that keeps on giving in a way. It's like, I can't. The one thing that I have to be very careful about anytime I go on a podcast is spoilers.
Yeah.
So I can't talk about the future.
Okay.
But like, I have more plans for Joe.
Yeah.
I have more plans to look at that and sort of. But yeah, I think originally it just came to me that it would be an interesting thing to do, to kind of have like, what happens when, because we'd sort of set up a thing where, and it was a thing we sort of stuck with for a while, and then we started poking holes in it, which was like the Hulk can only come out at night.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, how do people weaponize that weakness? Shine a lot of solar lamps on him. So like he's stuck as Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner can't fight his way out of a paper bag, generally. He's, that's not quite true. That's not fair, but it's like...
But he's not a Hulk.
9 times out of 10, he's not a fighter. And so I thought, it'd be so much fun to kind of bring the Joe Fixit personality back in Banner's body. And then I thought, well, yeah, let's do that long term. Let's have him sort of stuck there, and not really knowing why. And like, and it kind of became an opportunity to sort of like look at like, there's sort of 2 factors at play. There's like Joe is trapped in somebody else's body and he doesn't like it. That's factor 1. And the other one is Joe can go out in the sun now. Mm-hmm. And the more time he's out in the sun, the nicer he gets. Which is like, I don't think we've said that out loud sort of on the page, but he's definitely mellowing. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of, and that's sort of a journey that once we started, I got really interested in. So yeah, it's one of those things that none of that was in the original pitch. If you go back and look at the original pitch, which I don't know, I've talked about like maybe in like the last trade or something, we'll pop that in there just as almost as a fun thing, because I think I laid out a huge bunch of stuff. Pretty much all of it has now been, I've gone against it. I've just not done any of it. Like, there's a line in there which is like, I think I was like, no, and I'm going to make it really clear, like, the Hulk's never going to kill anybody. And in issue 8, he eats a guy. It's just like, you know. And there's a lot of stuff in there that I go back and look at it now, and it's just like, okay, it's become a completely different thing.
Is that like a big piece of advice you would give like an up-and-coming writer? It's like, make a plan in the beginning, but then don't be afraid to stray from the plan somewhat.
That's a good way of putting it. I try never to be kind of beholden to plans. I do have an ending in mind. I know what the end of the run is. I know, like, the big thing that happens in the last issue. And that's, like... I think that's almost like to stop me wandering too far. It's like I can kind of... And at one point, like, I think around issue 20, I drew up a map of the rest of it. Like, and then I had a look back at that recently, and it was like, oh, wow. Yeah, no. Because I kind of checked it. Because, I just finished writing issue 41.
Ooh.
And that was like... I think the solicit's around for issue 40, but I don't think anyone knows what's in issue 41 yet. But, like, basically, I went back to the map, this little map I made, like, 20 issues ago, to kind of check, okay, so where do I go from here? And it was like, oh, wow, I don't want to do half of that stuff. So I went and I made a new map for, like, the remaining portion of the run.
So when you get into these stories, to like the characters, I mean, people, I don't know if it's like a cliche, but do the characters kind of take on like a life of their own? They kind of direct themselves almost. Yeah.
It's like you kind of, and then you kind of start seeing the characters differently as well. There are things where it's like, oh, okay, I now know this about a character, I kind of, or like, I understand, like Joe, it's like, the more I wrote him, the more, he kind of directs it. And it's like, and I keep going back to the Peter David issues.
Yes.
And like looking at the Green Hulk and making sure that I'm still, on track and in that zone for him. But it's like, there is that thing where it's like the character is kind of driving the bus on that on like where he's going.
So in your discussion of this idea of how, you come up with a plan and then the characters kind of tell you what the plan is going to be now, you have this character who I really love. I know she's kind of doing her own thing right now in the book, which is Dr. Charlene McGowan.
Dr. McGowan, yep.
Yeah, and, it is such an interesting reveal when they reveal that she is trans, comes out, and how that influences both her as a person and how that is what gives her this sense to look beyond what the other Hulk is sort of presenting to the world, being able to see the truth for what it is. Was that an idea that you had at her inception? Is that something that, as you were writing the story, she told you she was trans in the same way she told all of us?
I mean, I think it was like around I'll tell you kind of how that came to be. It was, to start with, she was sort of one of many backup scientists. Mm-hmm. And basically, she started taking like a bigger and bigger role in things. She became a more and more important supporting character. And I think it was around her third or her fourth appearance. And I was kind of reading back over it and I was like, wait, I think she's trans. And, my immediate reaction was like, okay, am I going to piss a lot of trans friends off if I go barreling into this with both feet? Which was when I got onto Crystal Fraser, who basically helped me out massively by being a close reader. There were about 3 issues which were like, and I mean, I kind of gave her like, because there was an element of like making, deciding that I should do this, and and a lot of second guessing myself about it, because I don't want to screw up. That's like one of my big motivations with a lot of stuff I write, is I really don't want to screw up. I have screwed up on things in the past. I'm pretty certain of it. In terms of like representation, I really don't want to do it again. So there was a lot of second guessing myself, and then I got into Crystal, and Crystal had a look through basically we worked out like a plan of action in terms of how we would move the information, from my head to the page. And yeah, basically and it was like strictly in terms of like, okay, let's have an issue. Let's, A, let's know that we're doing this. B, let's have an issue where it's really obvious to anyone who knows anything, which was issue 31. And then let's say it in the next issue, like in text on the page. And that way it's not like North Star jumping through the wall. It hopefully didn't feel like, not a real thing. I'm trying to put it into words that don't like parrot, like, awful people on the internet. Yeah. But like, not doing it to sort of appear, cool or whatever. But like, but really, we kind of wanted to do it in a way where people didn't have to like worry about our intentions. So yeah, Crystal was a massive help. She's also a writer. I would, if any like editors are listening to this, then bear that in mind. She was great, and then I'm pretty sure. Well, I'm very sure that there'll come a time when I try and get her on the book again in the same capacity as like, somebody to like consult, because Charlene isn't going anywhere. Mm-hmm. There are issues like she's not in, like she wasn't in 34, but like in the long term, she's part of the book. So.
Great, because I do love her. I mean, I really love all the cast we've assembled. I was going
to say, when you said she, I thought you were going to talk about your other favorite character, Charlie, Jackie McGee.
Oh, Jackie McGee. Yeah. Well, Jackie McGee is great. I mean, I'm guessing you were a fan of the 70s series.
I was. I've only seen like a few episodes. I've seen a couple of the long episodes, the big movies, like the one where they bring in like Daredevil.
Mm.
Oh yes,
and the one where they try and do Thor, and it's those are just wild. And like I'm pretty sure I saw like the death of the Incredible Hulk, but all I remember, I think he sort of falls out of a plane.
Yeah,
and it's like the Hulk fan in me is like, wow, TV Hulk is really fragile. He can't even survive falling out of a plane.
Yes,
oh, that's terrible.
Well, because you also make references to, of course, the episode, the very famous episode, The First, where there is the Proto Hulk. So,
I kind of,
well, I think you and I, Al, are like close to the same age. I think you're like a year older than me. Like I kind of get like flashes of it when it was first on, but I didn't remember much. But I know there was like a TV station here that like replayed them when I was like in middle school, so that's how I kind of like remember it all now. But yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff we kind of took from the TV show. One thing I really enjoyed doing, and I don't get the opportunity to do it very much, but I did it in the second half of Ultimates, is like taking characters that only exist in one of Marvel's like other dimensions like the New Universe.
Oh, yes.
And, like, deciding what their 616 versions are.
Oh, yes.
So I brought in a whole bunch of New Universe characters. And I was very fond of the Justice guy, because I thought, like, there was that... we've seen sort of alternate versions of Justice, which are based very much on the sort of the Peter David run, where he's, you know, dressed in purple and he's kind of a moody vigilante who, like, a very witty moody vigilante because it's Peter David, but, like, still a moody vigilante. And I kind of wanted to do a version of, like, the sword and sorcery, like, goofy kind of, I'm a warrior of spring kind of, like, Justice from, like, the early issues. And, like, what would that look like? A kind of serious version of that. And it's like, and there was a guy called Jim Channon, who the film and the book, The Men Who Stare at Goats, is partly, the book is like a straight non-fiction kind of look at, like, strange methods of making war through the years. But Jim Channon ran a thing called the First Earth Battalion, which was attempting to use, and I'm probably mangling the ideas here, but attempting to use sort of New Age principles in combat as a way of avoiding combat. Like, one of his ideas was to, like, walk up to enemy soldiers carrying a lamb, like a live lamb, and, like, sort of short circuit, you know, the warrior instinct, or like, and he, you know, Jim Channon thought of himself as like a Jedi, and it was, and he, you know, he's a fascinating character. There's this real dichotomy of, like, you know, the military mind and the New Age mind. And yeah, that was where I've just realized I spent like 6 minutes babbling on about an incredibly minor character from a book that no longer exists.
Hey, we got the passion for it.
Honestly, I will tell you this: the Ultimates was definitely one of my favorite books when it was out.
Oh yeah, we raved about it. Remember, we were reviewing that. Yeah,
I know it was
fun.
It was fun. You know, I love, you know, that you had Monica Rambeau on there as well as the Blue Marvel. Always a little bit, never sure how I feel about those, you know, May December romances where, you know, one person is like held in time.
I think
but it's okay. It's okay.
I think there's definitely room to criticize it on those grounds. I think we'd sort of put a lot of effort into establishing that they were both immortals.
Yeah. Yes.
And also, I was definitely writing Monica as 40 years old. I sometimes have to remember that, like, the characters are officially significantly younger than, like, than
they actually are.
They don't age, yeah.
Because it's like, I always think of, like, novel superheroes as all, like, in their late 30s. I think the whole Bruce Banner, Jackie McGee thing, it only really works if, like, Bruce is in his late 30s. Because Jackie's, like, you know, 25 at least.
Yeah.
But it's like, timeline-wise, I don't know, but, like, opinions differ greatly on this, and some people are of the opinion that, like, no, it doesn't really matter, you know, what age they are. They can be they can feel a certain age, and that's fine, and we don't have to get into it. And, like, other people are like, no, Franklin is the barometer here, and he hasn't aged a day in 40 years. So, like, up until recently. So, like,
yes.
So everybody's got their own ideas here. But personally, I kind of, ever since I saw Robert Downey Jr., I have a lot of trouble picturing Tony as, like, younger than 35 at the lowest.
Yeah. I actually loved, because you actually give, in the Ultimates, a theory of Marvel time, with the idea of things being brought forward in time, which, of course, the people would say, that's impossible. I'd know what my own past was. But it just seemed like such a brilliant way to approach it, to really suggest how time may not flow the same for everyone in the universe. Which
I mean, that was kind of in the pitch. I mean, I think I got, I don't know, there was like a GIF there was a GIF doing the rounds of like, around that time of like planets. Mm-hmm. No, it was like a sun moving through space, and it was like a kind of like an illustration that like the sun also moves. You know, it's not like fixed in space, but like a sun moving through space with all these planets like swirling around it. And I think you can probably find that on YouTube now. It was from some astrology program, but like I remember seeing that and going like, oh wow, that's Marvel time. And I had to kind of like I had to kind of like put that in. It became like really important to put that into like the Ultimates. And it was sort of, I kind of feel like the Ultimates, it was a little rocky in some ways. There were a lot of tie-ins, and maybe I should have like had less. But like, I think I've kind of got better since then at sort of being a little more willing to kind of impose myself on the cosmic structure of the fictional universe.
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, that is Marvel time. That is all it. That is the codification of it, and I will happily hold that book up to any nerd and say, "This is canon. It's in the book."
I mean, I'm sure Marvel, they were probably excited if they were like, "Oh, can you actually, come up with a formula that explains everyone's aging? That'll satisfy all these fanboys." Oh, please do.
I mean, there've been many attempts. I think that same month that hit the stand, there was, I think there was that short kind of, it was sort of like I think it was called Worst X-Men Ever. I forget who did that, but I remember there was an explanation for Marvel time in it. And that, and of course people have been like looking at Franklin. Yes. Side-eyeing Franklin for like years and years and years. And it's like, oh, what's Franklin been doing with his ultimate power? Franklin, who stayed a child since like the day, he like aged rapidly to like 5 and then stuck. When was the last time? I feel like he was born and then he was a baby for a bit.
Yeah. He was a baby
and then
for a
he was
very
a
long
toddler and then he froze. I remember him, God, the beautiful Fantastic Four versus X-Men. Was that Bogdanov? I think that was Bogdanov. But like beautiful art throughout, but also Franklin looks like a 2-year-old boy. He's got this big head. It's like he looks like a realistic like 5-year-old or however old he is. He doesn't look like, yeah, it's like that might have set it in stone for a while.
Yeah, there's a lot of Franklin theories out there. Franklin is a very interesting character, to say the least. Although now, of course, Dan says he's devouring him, but we'll see how that works.
I mean, that's kind of.
Unless something's coming in Empyre.
Well, I mean, what is coming in Empyre is like Franklin left the main series on a kind of like I almost think of it as like a parabolic arc through like the tie-ins, and he left in the first issue. He's gonna return in the last. So. Yes. It might be worth, if you've got a little spare in your budget, it is worth picking up those FF tie-ins.
Yes, absolutely.
So
they're on my pull list.
because he's I know in the first FF tie-in that came out, he's like bringing together that 90s Fantastic Four. So it looks like next issue Immortal Hulk's a part of that. So like, do you get to throw in notes there? Since he's using Hulk.
Generally when people want to put the Hulk in these days, 9 times out of 10, I get to hear about it and I can sort of offer some notes. Okay. Like there's I'm trying to remember if this has been solicited. He's coming up in in something. And when Immortal Hulk fought the Thing on the Thing's honeymoon, I was kind of like, I looked it over. I didn't really have any notes to give. It all seemed, it seemed fine. Like, but Dan had sort of gone to lengths to like, this was back when we could all meet in rooms. Mm-hmm. And Dan was like, in the room was very much like, look, I want to do it right. I want to get the tone of the character. And, he did a good job. And then there was like another appearance where it was like, again, the voice is right. There are like a couple of little details where it was like, I don't think he'd say this. But like, that happens like once in a blue moon. Usually people, are respectful about it and they don't sort of, they go out of their way to get it right, which is nice. So.
Well, yeah. Professional courtesy, if nothing else. You never want to stomp on another writer's stuff because, then you don't want them to say, well, I'm just going to stomp on your stuff. So,
yeah. I mean, I try and do the same. I try and do the same from my end. I try and kind of like treat like other people's, and I mean, the big characters like, Tony, I'm always like, am I being too rough on Tony? But Tony Stark, he can take a lot. He can take a lot from the writers.
Yes, and he has.
I think, yes. I think that's part of his charm. I always like him more when he's kind of up against it and sort of going through it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's a question, and if you feel this is too spoilery or too fan theory, you can just say I don't want to answer that question.
Yep.
You have the Absorbing Man in our crew, and what I find fascinating about the Absorbing Man is how he is portrayed in very widely different ways. Between when he's hanging, and this is sort of my own fan theory, I found that when he hangs out with villains, he gets more and more villainous. And when he's with Titania, or as he is now, hanging out with actual superheroes, his villainy is almost a secondary factor of him. It's not as much a direct influence on him. I kind of always felt that
That's a really good fan theory. That's really solid.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So
that's like a really good no prize to like explain his various swings through years. I mean, there's stuff, to be honest, I kind of have to ignore. Yeah. Basically, I kind of picked Absorbing Man up from directly after his appearance in Black Bolt. Mm-hmm. And that was like, I was like, right, who he is in Black Bolt, that's his character. And I'm going to carry on writing that character. And like, I'm going to like ignore like the Bruce Jones thing where he's, I don't know, where he's like eating people or whatever. And I'm going to kind of, but it's like, I want to kind of, I want to use this guy who was in the Black Bolt comic. So yeah, and I mean, I'm sort of moving towards a place where he might, oh no, this is starting to get into spoilers territory actually, so I will use my veto. I will use my veto character.
Let me just say, that fan theory, it is yours to use. I've used it every time we've talked about the character on the show, so it's in the public domain.
I think it kind of, it's, I mean, if somebody else wants to take you up on that, that's fine. I kind of like, I really love theories like that, which like explain everything and sort of don't really need to be laid out on the page. Like Franklin, keeping everybody young, all of the people he knows young, yes. And like letting the rest of the universe kind of age. Yes. Is like that's a fan theory that like I do like that a lot, but it's like I like that it's there. So I mean, I probably won't make it like
no, that's fine.
I probably won't make it canon, but literally every time I read the Absorbing Man from now on, I'm gonna be like looking at who he's hanging out with,
and that is all I can ever hope, that when people read the Absorbing Man, they keep that in their mind. And I love that he absorbs a jet, and that to me that was just perfect magic.
there was a bit in the 90s where he got, like, smashed apart or something. Because after he got his arm cut off in Secret Wars, people were off to the races. It was like he would just, like, get constantly smashed apart.
Oh, yeah, I think it was Joe Fixit who smashed him apart.
Yeah, no, to cross his head, yeah. But, like, there was a later Hulk issue where, like, he just gets completely, like, destroyed. And Rick Jones kind of comes by and basically, like, gathers a few bits of him and then some, like, random rocks and stuff. And, like, basically builds... It's literally a brick wall with a face on it. And then you sort of see this happening, like, just off panel. You just see his arm. And it's like the wall kind of, like, slowly, like, turns back into absorbing that. As if, you know, he'd just taken a nap. And it's like, I remember reading that and going like, oh my God, there's just no limit to, like, what this guy can do. But he obviously doesn't have much imagination. Yes. But like, aside from that, there's no, like, limit to kind of what he's capable of.
All right. Playing off that whole absorbing man thing, I mean, do you, like, if you come up with, like, a big theory like that, like, oh, I can explain, you know, every appearance of the absorbing man through his whole history, is that, like, a big conversation you have to have with somebody, like an editor or someone, or?
I mean, not really. It's basically like, because that kind of thing is fun to do.
Yeah.
And the question I always have to ask myself is, does this serve the story, or is this me having fun? Because, like, if I'm just noodling for, like, 20 pages, that's, like, you know, a waste of somebody's, like, somebody's dollars. Whereas that leader issue, which was exactly that, it was that exactly, you know, and I kind of planned it that way. I was going to be like, yeah, look, let's do the leader. Let's do that thing where, that we did for those 10 bonus pages in No Surrender, where we, which I think was reprinted in the first Hulk trade, where we kind of went through Bruce's life and just say, oh yeah, he's been dying all these times. Let's do that for the leader. So I went back and I read, like, every leader story I could get my hands on. Like, I spent all weekend reading about the leader. And it's like, when you do, like, a read-through like that, there is so much stuff that, like, fits in. It's like numerology, like when you start looking for the number 23 everywhere, and, you know, you find it in a bunch of places. It's like, and I was, like, looking for, like, okay, how do I put this? Like, you know, what about this time? What about this when he came back from the dead? What about this thing when he lost all his powers? You know, what was the... And the thing I wanted to kind of do with that, I wanted to do that for two reasons. One, I wanted to just see the green door in there. And two, I feel like if every appearance of the leader has been like, at least in the back of his mind, he's had this, like, ongoing experiment he's been running. It's like, you know, even if it's not, like, his first priority, it's like in the back of his mind. That makes him scarier. Because, I feel like there are villains who kind of get to this place where they're teetering right on the edge of sort of turning up and... Okay, there's a certain class of bad guy. And I would put, like, you know, the Absorbing Man was in there for a while. And I would, you know, I'd put maybe the Wrecker and the Wrecking Crew in there as well. But there's a certain class of bad guy whose job is to turn up in the opening act and get their heads handed to them in a couple of pages by the hero of the book or the hero team of the book as, like, a day in the life thing while they talk about setting up the real plot. And once you're on that roster, it's really hard to get off it. And I think the leader was on that roster. He was somebody who, you know, was like a hair's breadth away from, like, turning up in, like, the kind of the first 5 pages of, you know, I don't know, you know, D-Man or as like
Power Pack, yeah.
Well, this is what D-Man does with his day. But, you know, what about his personal life? It's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to kind of, or like,
we're huge fans of D-Man here, so
I mean, I love D-Man, but like,
just on one of our other shows, his whole origin. So
picking him out of a hat, literally out of a hat, is like. But I mean, you know the trope. It's like,
just
establishing
cannon
a hero
fodder.
as having a busy life. I did it myself. I did it in the first issue of Valkyrie with like, I have villains that I have put aside for the purpose of being running jokes, like. And, you know, I love them, but, like, I don't feel any guilt about, like, putting Blue Streak in that position because he's never getting out of that position, you know. He's never going to be the guy who goes, like, who's on the phone to the UN going, like, give me $1 billion or I'll skate at you. It's like, you know, he's Blue Streak. I feel like that's what he's for. But it kind of, like, I feel like there are villains who are sort of, I don't mind villains turning good. Villains turning incompetent is like, it's really hard to get him back from that. And I was a little worried about the leader because he's not had a good time of it over the years. Yes. He's been kind of douchey over the years, and I wanted to make him dangerous again.
I think you have more than succeeded. I think you have made him really upped his level on that cosmic scheme of villainy in the Marvel universe.
At this point, I have to give big props to Joe Bennett, because his designs. I mean, when I was talking about like using the leader, this was back like it would have been around like while I was planning out like the second half, so it would have been around issue 20, and I'm pretty sure I said to him we should use the leader. There are a whole bunch of villains that he were like, can we use this one? And my answer is always yes, because I know he's going to do an amazing design. But like the leader, he did some designs for that, and you know you've seen like a couple of them, but you know there's more where that came from. So, and that was a big part of like wanting to make the leader like frightening, was like to live up to these designs that I was getting in my inbox from Joe. Now,
along those lines, well, I mean, as far as design and interesting choices you've made with because you've brought several characters back. You know, you had Betty come back, but rather than being Red She-Hulk, she's now Red
Harpy.
And then one thing I find most interesting is that you brought Rick Jones back as, and I don't want to use this in the wrong way, but he almost is like in a Dr. Manhattan kind of state, it just seems, where he just seems like he's just hovering there, and he clearly has a wide range of power sets, but I don't know what they are yet, and I'm just waiting to find
out. That kind of came out of like I put him in the Abomination. I knew I wanted to kind of bring him back. There was a period where I thought I was going to kind of bring him back and play that straight. And then I kind of realized pretty soon that no, I know who's sort of... And, you know, spoilers if you haven't been keeping up, but I know who's hiding in there. And it's like... And so... But there was a period when I was sort of thinking, okay, what do I do with Rick to kind of... So he's not just another puny human kind of trailing around after the Hulk and Betty. We need to have like a trifecta here. We need what's the other way kind of. And I can't remember if like I'd been watching Akira or something, but it's like I had this kind of. I remember what I was thinking. It was like, what's scary? Because it's like the Betty. I'd been like, okay. With Betty, it was like I want to do Red She-Hulk again, but I've got really fascinated by the Harpy because I'd been just finished rereading all the old Harpy issues, and those are just nightmare fuel. Like, she's got these gigantic bird feet, which are just like huge, and they're just it's just such a weird and incongruous design. And like those first Harpy appearances, they literally read like, you know, somebody's dream diary has just been like. And I was kind of reading this going like, oh my God, somebody just put it all out on the page there, like, but there's something so much more kind of uncanny and eerie about that. I will circle back to Rick, but it's like, so we did this thing where, like, I basically said to Joe, okay, Red She-Hulk, but she's got claws and wings and bird feet. And Joe comes back with this, like, Junji Ito thing, which is just like, you know, the jaw and oh my God. And that kind of, like, again, influenced how I wrote her. And, like, what sort of, you know, when I kind of got her voice and, like, but I was thinking, okay, so we've got, like, the Hulk is obviously, you know, the big sort of strong Gamma. We've got the Harpy as this more sort of monstrous, like, mythology monster. What's, like, you know, what's the third point on that triangle? What's the kind of, like, and it's like, yeah, let's go very sci-fi with it. Let's have that sort of, you know, because Joe was drawing Rick's corpse in the bathtub as looking very sort of emaciated, and I think I was going like, yeah, that's sort of hovering in the air with, you know, eyes and mouth glowing and going like, argh, and just like waves of gamma radiation coming off him, and, like, you know, that's going to look horrible. And then, yeah, we kind of, like, I sort of played around with, like, yeah, we had a long run where people assumed that, you know, Rick was in there, and it was a lot of fun. But, like, we're right on the point of a spoiler.
Okay.
So I'll stop there regarding Rick, but yeah.
Well, it is interesting.
We've got places to go with old Rick.
Yeah. Well, Rick being a character who has such a history in Marvel, through, you know, the Hulk to Captain America to Captain Marvel to the whole Conjuring. Yeah. The conjuring of all of the heroes from the 1940s to fight Kree or the Skrull. Yeah. You know, just a character that has really been there in such a weird way throughout all of Marvel history. And it's just interesting to see. It was tragic to see him die, and then amazing to see him brought back in this way, and where it's going to go. It's very exciting. And so you're a very good writer. I don't know if you know that.
With Rick, I kind of feel a certain obligation because he's got such a history, because he's got such a I feel an obligation to him that I don't really feel to like everybody in the book, but I kind of feel like I sort of have to leave him at least slightly better than I found him. So I'm sort of
of course, he was dead when you found him, so it's not that hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think the very least I can do is leave him dead again. But, like, we shall see. I mean, it might be that I'll just, like, it might be that I'll take another look at that map of, like, the rest of the issues and just go, no, I've got to sacrifice old Rick. And then, like, you know,
we'll see what happens.
But I do feel like the tug of nostalgia with him. So, you know, Rick. If there are fans of Rick out there, I do, you know, at the very least, I feel your pain. I can't promise to kind of, you know, be nice, but, you know, I at least have sympathy.
Fair enough.
All right, I have a question about your Guardians of the Galaxy, which I'm loving. Okay. I was a guest on another podcast. We were talking to Tom Brevoort, and I asked him about my favorite character, Quasar. And he said, "Oh, Mr. Al Ewing has plans for Quasar and Guardians of the Galaxy." Oh, I was having a chat with
my editor, Darren Shan, who is back, and basically, we've had a number of conversations about Quasar, and basically coming out of that. Because there's a lot of stuff from that Guardians annual I did 10 pages for in 2019. There's a lot of stuff that's come out of those 10 pages now where, like, people, you know where that was going. And all of it except Quasar. And With Quasar, I think we finally found a place we can do the Quasar plan in the upcoming Guardians. So, obviously, due to the hiatus, we are planning very far ahead. Lots of slips between the cup and the lip. I can't promise, there won't be some sort of. I don't want to jinx anything.
Okay.
Yes.
But because it's issue 5 has yet to come out.
Yeah, no.
I'm gonna sit down, I think, probably the week after next, and write issue 11. We're pretty far ahead. So I don't want to at this point say, oh, we're definitely going to do this, because I might be told, I don't know,
but
anything could happen. Anything could happen. It's that's something I do know.
But you can't. But you can't say there's Quasar things in the works, though.
There are Quasar things we want to do, and right now I think we have some plans to do them, and they will involve the stuff we did in that 10-pager. And more than that, I think, is entering some deadly spoiler territory.
Okay. Very good.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Am I okay to kind of start winding the clock down a little bit?
Oh, no, that's fine.
This
No, please.
This is your schedule, so
right. Well, I mean, if you guys have last questions, because I do have to go and make dinner.
Okay. The Quasar one was mine. So Charlie, last question.
Honestly, my last question was the Rick Jones one. So you have been a pleasure, and
one more for the road, or
okay.
Like a goofy one.
Oh, geez, a goofy one. There is one that I did have, which was you had, I believe it was Crawl, was the scroll world based off of the Archie, and you just
blew it up.
You blew it all up, man. How does that feel? I know they say kill your darlings, but
great. It's a little reductive. It's a little it's a big coin to spend, and I think we spent it on some interesting moments and some good moments. It is a little destructive, so I kind of made the point that a whole bunch of those scrolls got out. Mm-hmm. I mentioned a slew of the big names among scrolls that imitate Earthlings. And so I didn't want to just kind of do a thing where because I do love it. It was a kind of, each man kills the things he loves kind of thing. But I also wanted to kind of have a seed so that concept could be regrown. So one day in the future, the FF can go to a Skrull gangster planet, and it's we're starting a new one, and what do you think? Here's our arena, and it's and I mean that might be something I do myself, just to make sure it gets done, because it is. I did want to kind of in that 10-pager, and I knew I'd use that beat in later things, but I did want to kind of push that. Do that slightly nasty thing of destroying something beautiful, for the sake of the drama. But I didn't want to destroy it entirely. So there are refugees from the Skrull gangster planets and the Riverdale planet and I even mentioned a Roman planet, which I don't think we ever saw, but it was there.
Yeah, I caught that.
There are people who are so there are Skrulls out there who are okay, we want to do this again. So there's it's not forever. I don't think Krull, the galaxy might be gone, but the Krullian Skrulls will live on.
Beautiful.
Or a percentage of them. Am I okay to very quickly plug something?
I was going to say that's what I was going to say before you jump off. Yeah, please plug whatever you want.
I have a creator-owned series from Boom coming out. with Simone Di Maio, who is a wonderful Italian artist who people will remember from Immortal Hulk, The Best Defense. And that was great. And it was, I get to work with him again. It's like, the elevator pitch is it's set in the future on a mining community that gets resources like rare proteins, minerals, chemicals by performing autopsies on dead Kirby-esque space gods drifting out of the gulf between galaxies, these gigantic corpses.
Cool.
And it's called We Only Find Them When They're Dead. So
yes.
If you like my cosmic stuff and you like my my drama character stuff and you like a bit of science fiction, the final order cutoff for that is the 10th of August. So let your comic shop know, ideally before that.
I will be emailing them shortly.
Thank you for letting me advertise that.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your
We
time.
only find them when they're dead
No problem.
by Boom Studios.
That's it.
Yes. Okay. We'll make sure that gets number one with a bullet. Mr. Ewing, you've been very kind to us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving us
Thanks for the chat. It's been great.
Beautiful
anytime
thoughts,
you want me
man.
back, no problem.
Oh, don't say that. We'll have you back sometime, yes.
Yeah. And if you ever want to plug anything else, you can reach out to us and we will plug the heck out of you.
You've got my DMs. You can
Yes.
anytime.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Right, and now I will run off. Yeah, sorry to like cut and run, but I did.
That's okay.
I did promise
No, not a problem.
So, I'll just close this thing, and thanks again.
Yes, thank you.
And talk to you guys later. All right.
Talk to you later.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Oh, that was very pleasant.
Yes, I mean most of the people we talk to are pretty nice, but yeah, I just love when a creator of something you love is like a good person.
Yes. And he didn't call me a dumbass for my crazy fan
No,
theory.
he actually complimented you on that absorbing man theory. He was like, "Oh, that's a good one."
Yes. Well, there you go. You see, that's what I live for. That's what I live for. To be acknowledged for my crazy fan theories.
Oh,
all right. Is there anything you want to talk about, or you want to call this the episode?
I think that's good for this episode.
Yes, this was great. And Philip, actually, before we get to that, Philip, people may have been listening to this on substandard headphones, and they really, really should not do that. So I want everyone within the sound of my voice, if you can even make out the words on your cheap, shoddy headphones, to go to tweakedaudio.com. Yes, tweakedaudio.com. That's TWEAK. Is it E or EA? I don't know. Tweakedaudio.com. Figure it out. Find really high quality headphones to listen to these great podcasts on. And when you're done doing that, if you want something else to do, if you're bored and you're blue, why don't you go help Michelle Gray over at huntakiller.com, solve some cold cases, have an escape room delivered to your house, an escape room of the mind delivered to your house every month. And, of course, if none of that interests you, just go down to the show notes, find that Amazon link, click on that, go to Amazon, buy anything you want. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Buy whatever you want. It helps us. Costs you nothing. And while you're there, check out Pod Life, the book by Southgate Media artists, trying to explain what it is podcasting is all about. In the meantime, Philip, if people would like to reach out to you and talk to you about any of this stuff, how can they do that?
Well, if you want to get a hold of me, especially any comic creators, I mean, Marvel, DC, any of the other, if you're a smaller press, whatever, I mean, we'd love to talk to you. We do multiple shows here. Just email capesandlunatics@gmail.com, or the voicemail is 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES, and we're basically all over all social media, Capes and Lunatics, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So, yes, reach out. Want to hear from you.
And if you'd like to write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our Maz and Paz once did, do so at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. Of course, follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet the final season. Final 2 episodes, 1 hour and then a 2-hour spectacular, 3 hours of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. left. Follow me on Twitter as I talk about it at Charlie Esser. That's CHARLIE. ESSER. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing.
Thank you, Maz. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have connected with us once again Heard some fan theories that Mr. Al Ewing likes and will keep in the back of his own head. Please super connect with us again next week. Good night.
Good night. Oh, and can I congratulate you, Charlie S., for 300 episodes.
300 episodes! Oh! That's a lot of episodes.
So I was going to say, I wasn't on those first few, but man, 300, Charlie S.
You've been on a lot, though.
Most of them, but yeah, just 300 of super connectivity, Charlie.
I know.
Plus everything else you've done.
I do a lot of stuff. And I love it. This is my joy.
Thank you, Al Ewing.
Thank you, Al.